I'm Deacon Helene Patterson, and I'm from St. Stephen's in Schuylerville.
And I am Mother Laurie from St. John's in Johnstown, New York. I know you know that one.
Hawaii.
Hawaii. Oh, that would be great. Okay, that sounds marvelous. So we're just going to cover a couple things kind of quickly in the beginning, and then we're going to go over. I was very mindful in calling this organic evangelism. And why did I call it organic evangelism? And I think you mentioned this when you were coming in. What was the point?
Nature is out there.
We're just isn't organic the buzzword that we're talking about so often? Because we often want things that are less processed, or at least people are telling us that's good for us. We want produce that doesn't necessarily have chemicals attached to it and all of that. When I thought about evangelism, first of all, how many people like the word evangelism? And if you do, I'm really proud of you. Of you. Okay, we have some takers. Because literally, when I have spoken to people about evangelism, they're like, oh, talk to the hand, okay? So I'm just going to quickly gloss what organic evangelism is. First of all, what is evangelism? Okay, so I'm going to ask, we'll say 5 people. I want to hear somebody tell me some good news that you've had recently. Just tell me one line of good news that you got.
We got new floors.
You got new floors.
That is good.
Good news.
I got promotion.
You got a promotion. We're happy for you.
My neighbor moved my lawn. My daughter and granddaughter are coming.
Your daughter, from where?
South Africa.
From South Africa. That's how far away they're coming. Okay, 2 more.
Our son just graduated from graduate school.
Woohoo!
My neighbor mowed my lawn.
Oh, that is good. Mow your lawn. That is. I got my doctorate degree 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to share that with you guys. Exactly. That is. So guess what? We all know how to be evangelists. I want to make sure you hear that. We all know how to share good news. In fact, we are driven to. I could have let all of you share multiple amounts of good news because we love them. It's one of the things that brings our heart joy. Now, the idea of organic evangelism is actually kind of what you just did as well. It springs out of your own life. This is not a program. Okay, this looks programmatic. It's not. It's just kind of cool looking. We came up with some things, and I was like, ooh, it looked kind of fun as a wheel, and with these nice colors on it. This is not a program. You're not coming here to learn how to be an evangelist. You already know how. So basically, you don't need to be here, except that most of us do. So that idea of organic is trying to find not just what your individual gift or talent is, but what it is that God is calling you to do in the environments in which you find yourself, whether it is work, or school, or family, or church. We don't think about this much, but we actually need to be an evangelist in our churches sometimes. Not everybody is at the same place, or people are suffering from something, and actually our words may help bring them back to a place where they can see the heart of God more clearly, because they don't feel as though they can for some reason. So the idea of organic evangelism is literally, I would just call it like natural evangelism, spreading good news that comes from your heart, your life, your skills, your gifts. So it's not a program. Every single person is able to do this, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that we all are comfortable with it. And it doesn't mean that we are all ready to kind of jump on that bandwagon until perhaps we find out more about what our giftedness is and how we identify them. What would you contribute to that?
So I am more of a doer than a sayer, believe it or not. I like to be the good news, or act out the good news, or share the good news in maybe the form of a flower. Giving good news, and encouraging that by my actions. That doesn't mean I'm a saint. That doesn't mean I'm a do-gooder. That just means that's my comfort zone. I find my friend, Mother Laurie, very eloquent of speech, and I am not, so I get intimidated. But I can shake someone's hand. Hi, how are you? I can help you plant a flower, but I might not be able to express everything. So I like to I'm comfortable being the hands and feet of Jesus, myself.
Well, and I'll be completely frank with you. When I proposed this workshop, Helene wasn't part of it. And then she came to my church and she preached, and I was like, hey, girlfriend, you are an organic evangelist. Could you come do this with me? And she's like, well, I don't really want to. It's not. I was like, oh yeah, you're doing it. And so literally, she sees her name and she said, oh, I wish you wouldn't have done that. Your name on a sheet of paper?
You're such a teller. She's such a teller of it. See, this is what I'm saying. She shared.
But because it was good news for
Yes.
me to hear you, and that's so important. I don't have the answer. We have the answer individually and completely as a community. The other thing that I want to make sure we understand is that my husband is sitting in the back. Alistair, raise your hand there. One of the things that I love about Alistair, he's a minister at Christ Church in Dwaynesburg, and he always talks about the community. We get so kind of connected in with individual salvation and individual experience that we forget that our church communities evangelize as well. So I want us, when we're here, to take some time to think about the giftedness of our church and how our church actually preaches the good news. And I'm going to go outside the walls of that church. That's, for me, my giftedness is always thinking outside the walls. So we're going to talk more about that than inside the walls.
Would you like me to go outside the walls?
Actually, go round him up, bring him in there.
I think actually it's true, we've kind of covered the outside the walls thing right here. Good point.
Actually, as Mother Laurie said, I jumped in afterwards, and it was a pleasure to be invited. Like I said, I just get intimidated by her because she's so awesome. I'm just like, so, I'm better like I said, digging in the dirt. But that being said, we all, as individuals and communities, do have gifts and talents. And some of us suffer because we think, oh, this person can evangelize, they have a prayer table and they can preach and they can do these things. All I can do is plant flowers and cook pizza. Well, let me tell you, everybody loves a flower and everybody likes a good pizza.
I'm on both of those, okay?
And that's, I learned this, through my evangelism, if you will, and I never thought of it that way. I never thought of that word because
See, that's so important.
that
so
word's
we're
for Billy
actually-
Graham.
That's because it was a bad word for a long time. It
Yes.
really was.
Yes.
We love to speak the truth.
Yeah,
It
speak
was
the
a bad
truth.
word for a long time.
I didn't think anybody was going to come to the workshop because it was called evangelism. I'm not even kidding you. That's not a joke.
But I'm going to, when Mother Laurie and I had some discussions, we were trying to think of what are the scary things of evangelism, what are the fun things of evangelism, what are the scary words. And she did come up with this beautiful graphic, which is so wonderful. And then looking at it, well, what is a story? What is an experience that either one of us have had, or hopefully you will be able to share with us, that kind of touches all those points, or some of them. So mine, real quick. I always think I have nothing to offer anyone. That's my MO. All I do is like to cook. I can't cook, but I like to. Am I a master gardener? No, but I still like to play in the dirt and plant flowers. Amazingly enough, with these gifts and talents, and this goes from the individual to the group, because if I can cook and you can plant flowers, and you can speak well, and you can write well, and you can sing, which we know you can, my gosh, what an amazing group to come together, right? I'm getting excited, I'm sorry.
I think that's
Don't
the point.
apologize.
I think that's the
Getting
point.
excited. So, again, try and be quick. So those are my gifts and talents in my head. What could I do with those? During a meeting one time, someone said, go, honest to goodness, this happened. It was another deacon, a senior deacon, who I was intimidated, as usual, by. Go and feed the poor. Well, who are the poor? Where am I going to find them? What are you talking about? I can't feed the poor. Stop it. Yes, I can, because I can join with a group. I can join with a group to feed the poor, because I did like food, obviously. And I do like to cook. And I do like to cook. And I love even more, I'd like to cook, but I love to share food. I love the conversations. I love the community. I love being together. The other thing, flowers. So I ended up at a Code Blue shelter serving meals. And it was wonderful. there's a little bit more of the story to it, but again, it was just this seemingly, well, I don't have this, but wait, I do. I do have something to offer, and I have something to share with somebody. The biggest thing is sharing Jesus and my love of him and the excitement. I have my smile to share. I have my good disposition to share. And hopefully I can just lift someone up on a bad day and give them a cookie, right? I can do that. That doesn't take a big degree. That doesn't take 20 years in a corporate thing. This comes from here. And that's where I believe, where this evangelism comes from. So eventually, like I said, there's this more wonderful story to it, but eventually I went from befriending or just meeting someone at the shelter to become acquaintances, to become friends, a friend with this person. And ironically, this person, when I let her, you'll see on your chart, by the way, I had a really good thing about listening, because that's so important. As I'm jabbering on, that's part of the circle. That's probably one of the most important things. No matter what I do with my hands, with my heart, with my feet, where I go, I have to listen. And I have to listen to people. And that means reading body language. That means looking at them if they're like this, or if they're too ashamed to look up and they're looking down. That's listening. That's listening with their, oh, here comes the Holy Spirit. I'm going to start crying. It's all right.
Okay. Go team.
That's so important. That's so important to listen to people and how they react, and to love them and to meet them where they are with that, right?
And that's the key. I want to just jump because meeting people where they are, I think, I've been faithful. I've been a Christian my whole life. I'm boring that way. So it's harder for me to meet people where they are if there are people that I'm meeting perhaps that have not had an experience or had a good experience with Christianity, with church, with some of the more institutional things. So there's nothing actually I love more than making sure, and I think this is where you were getting, listening to someone else's story. Because what I've been given the gift is to see where Jesus intersects in that story, even if somebody else might not see it. Which doesn't mean that's the way I'm presenting it to anybody. Are you all members of who's a member of a church here? Okay, so I'm just gonna ask you a question. Can you ask somebody to come to church? Can you do it? Okay. Could people say no?
Yes.
Okay. Do you get less church out of it then? Like, is church worse for you if they don't come? Do you get punished because they didn't come? Do you love Jesus less because they didn't come? So in other words, even the idea that we might invite somebody into something, listen to a story, and they say no, doesn't mean, first of all, that the answer is always no. It means the answer is no now with me. But it might not be no later on with Hillary. It may not be no with Jacob when they meet Jacob 2 years from now. So understand that when we talk about organic evangelism, I don't keep track. I don't go home and say things like, hey, Alistair, got 4 people to come to church today. Okay? I got one guy to come to church. I was online at the post office, and he's like, hey, where are you the minister? I'm like, that big stone church right there. He came to church one time, sent me an email, and he said, it would be like trying to make cats learn how to swim to go to your church. He said, I hate that style of church. And I was so grateful that he actually respected me enough to tell me. And then I sent him back an email, and I said, I will help you find a church if that's what you want to do. I'm okay that it's not the church that I happen to go to. So that's the other thing. We have to stop being so invested that this is a win-lose. Anytime you carry Jesus, even if it's a word you don't mention, if you don't say the J word, anytime you carry that into a conversation, it's a win. So that's the other part of it. Don't get all nervous that there's something that you have to say, that at some point you have to say, have you accepted Jesus as your Savior? There are times for that. And I'm a big fan of when that might be right. I don't think I've actually ever said those, and I mean that. I don't think I've actually ever said those words in my life. So I want to make sure that you know that your language matters, the way that Helene interacts with somebody and listens to the story and reflects back, and then carries that story, because guess what you can do when that person leaves? Exactly. You can praise an informed person, not just as, I pray for that woman who was in line at the grocery store that I ignored. You can say, I pray for, I think her name was Terry, God, and she's having a rough day because family stuff's getting in the way. You know the details. Hang on to her because I think she wants to know more about you. And I don't even look like, it's not like I go back to the grocery store and like, well, where's Terry? I gotta check in and see if she's ever like accepted Jesus. Take what comes and let go what you can. We're not responsible for the whole journey. God is. And we can trust God to do the good work of moving that process along if we are authentic about what it is that we share. And I'm just gonna ask more. What do you love about your faith life? Name something. Music. Oh, okay. Love. Nature. Community. It's not that hard, is it? To find some prayer. Some people like quiet time. Some people like this, convention. It's not hard to find something you love, and most of the time we can talk about what we love. But I know that it can be challenging to say, I follow Jesus. So we need to think of other ways in our lives that we express that. Yes.
I have a way.
Yeah, well, tell me.
Where? In my ears. In my ears, a lot.
Oh, so you got the fish, the Jesus. That is really true. Okay, so I have fairy hair.
So
Some
it's
of
like-
you.
Just zoom.
Yeah, some people have talked about the fairy
Cross.
hair. The fairy hair is the greatest single conversation starter. My husband can tell you, people run after me in parking lots. And you know, every now and then when I'm being extra kind of annoying, I'll say, well, it's really angel hair. Like I've been chosen, I'll say, oh no, it grows like this. What, yours doesn't? What I do is take the things that may look unique in my life and try to find a way to connect them to what is unique in my faith. And I don't try to stretch too far. I don't worry about, there are other priests in the room, so I'm just gonna do this. I don't worry about theology or doctrine in those conversations because I'm sure you've all had a conversation with somebody whose heart gets broken open. Or you say something and you say, so how are you? And they're like, not good. And you think to yourself, oh my. And can I segue into 15 minutes? So first of all, I do want to mention, I do have prayer at the top of this little wheel. You can enter into this little wheel any place on this wheel. It can be conversation that gets you there. Everything is surrounded and undergirded by prayer. And if that's what you're doing as an evangelist, you're doing fine. So let's just first of all affirm people where they are, because some people will never be comfortable talking about it. And that's the other thing. We're giving you permission to be okay with that. But can you be an armchair missionary? And can you pray when you're sitting at home? Or when you're driving in your prayer bubble car? That's what I call my car sometimes. Or anytime. But to be intentional about it, one of my friends did tell me, be careful about just babbling to God. In other words, I can just chat with God, that's not always prayer. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes it's just me thinking God thinks I'm so interesting.
Like, do I really have to go through this?
Exactly. And I'm like, so God, like I'm the only person God talks to, So do try to be intentional about actually stopping. I have a thing in my car that my husband hates. It's a string of 10 beads. And it reminds me to say 10 prayers. You can either hold it in your hand or you can look at those 10 beads, pray for 10 things intentionally to focus. I believe that is a form of evangelism if no one else in the world is praying for the people or the things you're praying for. So
It's evangelism even if they are.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
just more corporate.
yeah, but it helps me focus because I think sometimes I forget to focus. And that's, I know you're shocked to hear that, but.
So I meet this woman at the shelter. We become friends acquaintances first. When we got to become friends, one of the first things she says to me, because at first this was not, I was ordained, but I wasn't going to the shelter with my college.
Right.
One of my mentors said, you have to let people know who you are. And I was like, they're not gonna like me.
Right.
She said, it doesn't matter. It's not about liking you, you have to wear, you don't have to wear it once or twice, but you do have to wear it because that is who you are. That's not a pretty necklace. This is who you are. Wear it, meet up with Mona again. I'm not going to use her words because this is a genteel crowd, but it was, I am so angry at God. I knew I shouldn't have worn the collar, right? I knew I shouldn't have worn it. I am so angry at God. And I just, Lord, tame my tongue, as in be quiet and listen. Be quiet and listen. Don't try to defend God. God does a beautiful job himself of
You
that.
taught me that, by the way.
You taught me that. He really does.
We don't need to defend God because God can defend himself.
Yes, because I would be
God actually defends us.
us. Exactly.
He taught me
Exactly.
that at a very tough time in my life.
Yes, and so I let her talk. What had happened, sadly enough, her mother passed away. Her mother died in her arms. She was praying for her mother to not die, and her mother died. So, through listening, but listening here, and praying while listening, I had hope, because I heard God, even though we were angry with him.
Right.
we
Right there in the first place.
That's right.
Sucker!
We still knew he was there.
Right.
We just didn't like him right then.
Right.
And I heard prayer. I prayed for my mother. I prayed to God for my mother to be healed, and she wasn't. So this person did pray at one point and did know God, doesn't matter. And that was, okay, that was a sign for me. It's like, now she knows who I am. We talk. That's great. This can come off for a little while. I need to be a little gentler with this person right now. I said we don't need to defend God. What ended up happening is her, through talking about her mother, she also mentioned, the one thing I miss the most are the flowers. The flowers. She always planted flowers, and this person was homeless. And when I had a home, I had flowers. So what I did was, the instinct was to go home and pray that Mona will have a house and flowers and a mansion, and which is not bad,
Right.
but it might not be God's plan right at that moment. And it's Lord, it was more, Lord, I just want this person to find some kind of joy. I want her to find you. How can I help? Can I help?
Well, that's such a good way of putting it. We
It's-
didn't rehearse this. So I'm really listening to Helene, and can I help? That is the best line I've ever heard about evangelism, because we think it's all about us. Go on.
Well, just because I'm smart enough to know I won't know what to do. I know what I don't know.
I
right?
think that's a great line.
And I'm not a mason, and I'm not a construction worker. I can't build her a house, and I don't have money. What can I do?
But you can plant flowers, I've seen it happen.
That's right. Thank you. This is one of my dearest friends too. Paid her $5 to cheer me up.
Oh,
6, so you don't throw me under the bus. But anyways, I can't make these things up. I cannot. This really happened, and it was wonderful, and it was beautiful. So we go to bed, and I'm just, please, Lord, how can I help? What can I do? Can I do something? Maybe you don't want me to, but boy, I really hope I can, because I really have grown to fond and love this woman. Next morning, neighbor across the street, I really can't make it up, boatloads of buckets of bleeding hearts. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. Very sturdy, perennial, beautiful, so appropriate bleeding heart. That wasn't lost either. Buckets of them on her curb. What are you doing? She's like, I have so many, I clean them out. And I'm trying to think, when did she do that?
Yeah.
Because they weren't there yesterday. And she said, do you know of anybody who would need them? And I'm like, actually, I think I do. I do. And I gathered up two of them, and I said, thank you so much. I said, oh, Erica, I said, I will have a fantastic story when I get back this afternoon. I know I will. I gathered little tools, water buckets, went to Tent City. This is where some of these folks live. They don't have shelter. They have tents, which means tarps and cardboards and things. And I was so excited, and I came to Mona. I said, look what I have. And we planted them together. We laughed, and we cried, but tears of joy, tears of wow, wow. And and they're bleeding hearts, and God, it's like, how did he even do all of this like that?
Right.
But he did, and he put me in the right place. He put the neighbor in the right place. It was like so Only God can do it. Only God can do it. But what I also, aside from the joy that I experienced, I felt, I don't know if this is the right word, but so privileged to be part of that. That he thought, obviously I have some issues with being worthy. I think we heard that earlier. God thought I was good enough to listen with my head, my heart, and get those flowers to Tent City and plant them.
So are we good enough? Are we good enough?
I think so.
I think that's really important to mention because
We are good enough for God. God, we are the good enough.
I don't know, I feel like
We are. We are good. We are good because we're God's creation.
Well, when God created humans, what did he say after he created people in the book of Genesis? Very good. Only when he created us in his image did he say it was very good. We need to rely on that. We need to live there. So I'm going to quickly tell a story because it frames your story because I read a book several years ago and maybe this is a help to you also. It was called The 15 Revolution. It's out of print. And it's a very thin little book, published in the UK. Somebody gave it to me. And what it says is, this is the whole theme, I will be inconvenienced for God for 15 minutes a day. But you have to start the day by saying, good morning, God, nice to hang with you. I agree. You have to make this agreement in the morning. I agree to be inconvenienced for you 15 minutes today. It'd be great if it was only 15 minutes. The problem is, I have to tell you. So I did that first in Lent one year. And I'm not even going to tell you the whole story, but I will briefly tell you that things that were happening, it was almost overwhelming for me because I started looking at the world differently. What I started to do was, I was like, oh, is this the 15 minutes? Is this the 15 minutes? Suddenly there were all kinds of 15 minutes, you know what I'm saying? The world was full of 15 minutes, but the one that stood out for me was one horrible, terrible, awful, wintry day when it was like snaining out and there was slush and I was going to my car and I couldn't park it at the church because somebody else had parked there. How dare they? There is a great sign I know that somebody sent me recently. This is the pastor's spot. If you park here, you have to preach. Now, I don't really want my own parking spot, but that still made me laugh. But anyhow, I was going to my car and I looked, we have a band shell in Johnstown, I looked at the band shell, I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. There's like a whole bunch of clothes sitting in there. Like a bunch of, well, it wasn't. It was a person. Now, honestly, I could tell I was not in any way interested in finding out more. If it were my thing, I would have said, I'm going to the car, I'm going home, I'm making dinner. It's a horrible day and I'm uncomfortable. But I went over to the van shell and it was a woman who had wandered away from home and she had Alzheimer's and she didn't remember anything about where she was. And she was soaking wet. And so I'm standing there, but I have to be honest also. I did say, oh, no, God. Oh, no. I have 15 minutes. I have 15 minutes. Hours. Because I had to then convince her to trust me enough to go to the police station. Which every piece of this felt so risky to me. But I knew that what we were doing was right, and I knew that God needed us to get her to a safe place. The end of the story was so wonderful, and it was hours long, but at the very end of the story, I will tell you how amazing it was because it changed my life. As she was sitting with me, the police wouldn't let me leave because she was connected to me now, and she felt safe with me. So they're like, you stay with her, we'll figure out what we're going to do. And we're in a pretty small town. And as she was sitting, she's like, your eyes look like my daughter's eyes. Like she was starting to remember things, which was so I stared at her a lot more like, and then she started to remember the color of the house. Not enough for us to find out where she belonged. But at one point I started hearing all this hubbub and somebody walked in the room and she turned around and it was her son and everything came back. And here was the most wonderful thing. So she went from being this bundle of soggy clothes to turning to me and saying, I want you to meet my son, Vincent. And he was only about 17, and he ran over to her, and he held on to her, and she belonged. And you know what? And she never came to church. I don't know if she believed in Jesus. That was a Jesus moment I can never forget because there was an intersection that God needed me to make to keep her safe in this world, and I keep praying for her still. I don't know where she lives. They never told me any details about it. So what I'd like all of us to do, I know that you can see, gosh, the flying paper. That's pretty appropriate for evangelism. I just want to make sure that we're not so. Oh, but we have time. The word "go" in the middle. What are the first two letters of the word gospel?
Go.
Oh, what are the first two letters of God's name? Oh, right. What did Jesus tell us to do in the book of Matthew?
Go ye.
Oh, right, just to go. So even if all we do is we wake up in the morning and we don't agree to be inconvenienced, but we say, I'm willing to go. I'm willing to go where you send me. I'm willing to go into the world. I'm willing to go to work. And I'm going to carry my faith with me, God. I don't know what that means. But I'm going to trust that you do. I still love what you said. Can I help you, God? We think it's all about us. We've got the best team captain in the universe. We don't need to be afraid. And yet we are. How many of you are afraid of this word evangelism? I understand. I was raised in a church where we only said the prayers in the book, not the Episcopal church. I was raised in the Catholic church. And those of you who were raised Catholic, I just met with somebody the other day, I'm like, this is what we said for grace. Bless the Lord for these like this, we are about to receive the Like, I can say some of those prayers so fast, baby, okay? Because we never said, oh God, we're having grilled cheese, we love grilled cheese, thank you. So I had to learn a whole new language when God called me to ordination, because I believed that God needed me to intersect with people in a more organic way. I still love those rote prayers. I still hold on to them, and I love our prayer book. But I recognize that most of the people in the world aren't familiar with it, so I need to learn to speak a language that people can and will relate to.
That's wonderful.
What you both said resonates with me.
Okay.
You left your comfort zone. When you leave the comfort zone, that's when, when I work in the food pantry in Sikkim, want to give me some love.
Yeah.
And now they come up to me, how come you didn't give me the fist? So it's the smile on the face of the people. And some of them don't even speak English.
Exactly.
And so then the staff is giving me grief because I haven't learned Spanish.
Ha! It's true, mister. Speaking of the love language, I think it's time to learn Duolingo on your phone. Just saying. Yeah. You're right. And that's, we have a Noah meal, needy or alone and hungry. And we have a joke of the day every Sunday. Okay? So, what kind of tree grows in your hand?
A palm tree.
Thank you. Quickly done. I know, mind up here was like, okay?
I'm used to dad jokes, even though my husband's not a dad.
Okay, gotcha. So every Sunday, that's how I connect with people downstairs. And I go downstairs from the church sanctuary, and it's in the basement. We're building this whole new facility, some of you know about that. But for now, it's still in the basement. And when I go down into the basement, we celebrate that we get to see each other. And when I'm not down there, they worry about me. They worry about me. Relationship. It's on your little wheel here. Build friendship, trust, and understanding. We're not supposed to be just like each other. We're supposed to be different. That's how God made us, so that we could learn something from each other that we didn't know before. Everybody has a story. You want to know how to evangelize quickly? Ask questions. If you are not comfortable talking about Jesus, you just say things like, hi, like, what do you do for a living? Wherever it is that you meet people, if it's online at the cash, I always compliment people. That's a thing that I've learned to do.
Yep.
My goal is to say,
So easy.
what do I like if they have a big honking ring or something on, and I'm like, woo, look at that gem girl. Somebody must love you. And then she says, no, I bought it for myself. And I'm like, ooh, even better. So meet people where they are, pay attention to who they are, find something to love about them. Because one of the things that I learned when I was going to theology school was God delights in every person that God has created in this world. Where can we find something in the person with whom we're interacting that is delightful? And I've got to tell you, there are challenging people in the world that I do not find delightful. But I know that God does, and that helps me. So let's see if I'm going to... Did Jesus do this? Did Jesus do organic evangelism? And if he did, you tell me how. You tell us how Jesus did this. He sat down with people. Of course, I'm a foodie. We're foodies. We have a food church. We're called the Food Church. So the food thing is big for both of us. I'm going to have pizza over her house, apparently. She doesn't know it yet. Right. Sitting down and having dinner with different people. my doctorate was about sitting down at the table with people I didn't know. I had 3 meals with people I didn't know. And we kind of had to see what happened when people sit down together and don't know each other. So yeah, you sit down and you have a meal with people. How else did Jesus intersect with people in an organic, normal, natural way?
Ask for a drink of water.
What?
Ask for a drink of water.
Ask for a drink. Ooh, nice. See, I haven't thought about all these. So yeah, ask for a drink of water. Cindy, were you going to say something? You had that look.
He told stories so people would understand.
He told stories.
Stories they would understand
Yes.
about things they knew.
About things they knew, agriculture and vines and
Fishing.
rocks and sea what?
Fish.
Fish, exactly. And you know, that's one of the challenges for us sometimes, even when we hear scripture stories now, because maybe we're not people who farm, or maybe we're not people who know a lot about fishing, but maybe you know someone who is. Other ways that Jesus did this organically. He spoke to, who said that? He spoke to the women. He spoke to the women. Was he supposed to? No. He broke the rules and he crossed the boundaries. I'm not kidding you. I know how close I was to ignoring that woman in the band shell by creating a boundary that I wasn't going to see through. And it took effort for me, and I was like, I think this is my 15-minute thing.
He healed people on the Sabbath.
Oh, I love that. We're going to hear about that this Sunday.
And he used mud.
And he used, and spit?
Yeah.
Okay, you do not have to spit on people. I just want to make sure. No saliva needs to be exchanged. We're okay with that, okay? He took time to pray. He talked to the Father so that he would know more about his own pathway, so that he would understand. He sat in the temple and listened to the teachers and taught with the teachers. He took time. So he also refueled himself. It's really important that we do this. It can't all be about giving ourselves away. It has to be about how we refuel ourselves. So I will recommend reading scripture, listening to scripture. How many of you are watching The Chosen? Anybody? Okay, look it. I was kind of a snob about The Chosen, all right? I was. Because it's not really all scriptural and there are things they're taking license with. Watch it. Watch it. Learn something, because the way that Jesus acts, I think they catch something. Maybe everything is not exactly right. I'm not sure why Matthew had to be autistic. You know, I'm not sure. Yeah. But it's pretty fascinating. I'm just saying, just give it a chance, because you gotta watch Jesus, because stuff happens there that I think is quite breathtaking in the way that Jesus was with people. And I'll just give you some spoilers. The very first episode is about Mary Magdalene being healed of all her demons. The minute she's healed, I can almost feel like all the demons leaving all the rooms in the entire world. It's such a powerful scene. I'm not telling you that it is the Bible, it isn't. But there is something that can start conversations with people. And my 3 favorite words are spoken over and over again in The Chosen. Come and see. Come and see. So when people say, you know, Sam, I don't do church because, like, I've been burned by church. I was raised Catholic, and, you know, I can't do that. And all you have to say to people is, come and see. You don't like it, don't come back. Don't come back. And if it's not about church, then something else. Are you having a dinner at the church? Are you having something? So who was just telling me about the dinners that they have at their church? Somebody was telling me a great story about how I know, it's Little Falls. They even charge people to have dinner, but the dinner is so good, people like crowd their parish hall to have dinner with them. And then people are in the building. I even think people being in the building counts for something, because then you're demythologizing what the building is.
And then it didn't fall down. 'Cause that's it.
Right, you got in, you created the feeling, you left, and it didn't fall down.
So you want to know the answer to
I hear
that?
that so many times.
Here's what you say to them. You know what's so great? The only time the building's going to fall down is when Jesus comes back. Because then we're not going to need the building.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to cause the building to fall down. Only Jesus. What else?
I was just wondering if anybody had anything they wanted to offer. I don't know what time.
I know.
We're
We're getting close. They're still going, so we're still going.
along
Not that
with
it's competition.
maybe they were surprised by something, like I was surprised that planting flowers and food and things ended up in a different avenue. and for the Lord, not just pretty flowers in my own front yard, which are okay too. But is there anything, a gift or something that you've done that surprised you?
I love the story about the flowers. So in our city, we've got very rich and very poor people. So we have a food pantry. You gotta ring the bell, the secretary comes to the door, and it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 12, you always forget it. What we did out in the circle, this circle, was to build one of those boxes that looks like the little library.
I love this little free pantry.
Yeah, but it's about this big. We have a contractor, and he put it together. It's got a glass door. And what's amazing is people just I've got more canned goods than I need. I just put them in there. Other people put them in there. Then I come again, and it's almost empty. Then I come again, and it's full. And then I come back again, and it's empty, and it's 24/7.
That's amazing.
No questions asked.
I love that.
No names taken down. No restrictions.
No ringing a bell to get in.
Exactly.
No hours.
So easy. You don't even have to be physically present.
Right.
The little box, the big box speaks for your church, speaks for itself, speaks for
That's
Jesus.
beautiful. That's awesome.
I think that's so important because we also think we have to create something and be part of it. But you're exactly like, God is sufficient. That's one of my favorite words. God is capable of doing all kinds of things, even though we just set it up. God can continue to work. And that kind of, my whole thesis was about nourishing people. What you're saying is that we are going to nourish people in body, mind, and spirit 24/7. There's a message in that that's much bigger than a can of corn, so to speak. Other stories that people might have.
Tell a little story.
Yeah.
Barbara and I are in Lake George,
Yes.
and we have about 1,000 students who come in the summer. They are with J1 visas. They're
Yes.
international student workers.
Yes.
So a few years ago, we started doing dinners for them. And, initially there were just a few. Well, last year, and we ended up doing 6 dinners, we ended up with about 25, 30 people each time. And it was magic. We have people from other churches who come and help out, so it's become quite an ecumenical effort.
Yeah.
And
which is
it really
great.
has grown organically. You just always hope you have enough food.
Yep.
And then they take food
I have a
with
couple
them.
stories about that, you will.
No.
Yeah.
Conversations, the conversations are wonderful, and they sometimes ask, why do you do this? And we say, well, because we're parents and we're grandparents, and if our kids were there,
You'd want to know somebody welcomed them for dinner.
and they just are so appreciative. It's a really,
They help pick up and just,
Yeah.
we have a map of it.
Oh, the world, and that's so great. So you can put pins where people are.
And so they talk about.
Because they feel known.
Yes.
They feel recognized and they feel welcome. That by itself.
And then.
Is
as the
evangelism.
Parish hall is open to the year.
Yes.
It's a conversation with people that, all you need to do is like you said, meet them. I go to a group coffee every day, and as my mother said, I can make the wall talk to me. And I just greet people, and I've met some gorgeous people by just a smile and saying hello. And it's not necessarily that I talk about my faith, but I feel that I live it.
we're living.
By offering
And I
myself
really do
in
believe
my
that.
conversation.
I really, really do. I think people want to know the reason for the joy that is within us, for the hope that is within us, to quote from the Bible. I really do. And at some point, that conversation can happen. But I found that I never force the conversation because I'm so interested in meeting new people. And I'm so delighted by hearing somebody's story that I don't have to worry because I know what I'm seeing is that God already loves this person, and I'm simply kind of welcoming them into the family. I do have a very broad version, unlike many people, about what church membership means. So, for example, if somebody comes up to me and says, "So your mother, Laurie, right? You're from St. John's Church. I need a guest card." I'm like, "Whoop, member of the family." I think anybody that intersects with our church needs to know they can come to our church, they can ask for help from our church, they can ask for prayer from our church. I have a extravagant definition of church. It is much larger than the building itself, because I think the whole community needs us. And so if the whole community needs us, there's going to be a point in time when we're going to be able to intersect. And what I never want to say is, are you a member here? Because, members get that, but, which is why I do a lot of funerals in the town, because I'm the funeral person. Because I will do a funeral for people, because I think that's what God needs us to do. And I'm going to trust God. I'm not going to say they don't meet the criteria. I'm going to say, I'm going to trust God that this person is in your gracious keeping, and that this is someone in whom you delight, and it is worth my 15 minutes. So do you think you can wake up in the morning and say to God, I am willing to be inconvenienced for you 15 minutes today. I would love to know that I could hear some of your stories, because you're going to have them. I promise you, and you're not going to be so happy sometimes, honestly, because it's not always easy. But I would love to know, if you're willing to say that you would let me know. Let us know what happens when you say that and what you notice. Because what I say is, the more I follow this path of faith, the stronger my Jesus glasses get. He gives me stronger prescription glasses to see more suffering in the world than I used to be able to see before. And I'm really interested in hearing how your vision of the world changes. We're in a very hard political situation. We are in a time when there is such enmity. We are called to be love in that place. We are called to bring peace in that place, even there. So, are you willing to be inconvenienced for 15 minutes? Are you willing to report back? Not because I'm a teacher, because I want to know, because these stories are rich. Maybe we could write a book together about the stories that happen when we're willing to be inconvenienced, and we could put that together, and then at our next convention, we could teach a whole workshop, right? Could we do that? I think we could do that. And wouldn't it be fun to fill a room with people teaching instead of people just listening, because you all have the experience of what it means. So, you have pens? Yes? I have one for my little notebook if you need one. Okay, you're going to write down my email on the back there. Okay? Yep. Some of you have my email. If you already have it, don't worry about it. Okay? Because I'm not joking. I want to hear your story. And you don't have, the other thing is, you don't have to do this. There's nothing, I'm not going to know who does it and who doesn't. So it's Rev, R-E-V, like vroom vroom. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, think of it that way instead of like Reverend. Reverend is so boring compared to vroom vroom. So it's Rev, and then the letters L-M-G-R. Rev, L-M-G-R, @gmail.com. Rev, L-M-G-R, @gmail.com. I'm going to give you my phone number too, if that's easier. Everybody in the entire world has my phone number, so It's 518-610, here it comes, 1111. I know, because my phone was hacked, and I had to give up my phone number, and I was so upset. He said, I'll give you a really easy phone number to remember. And I'm like, now they think I'm some kind of spam pizza person or something. It looks totally fake. So I really want to hear, and I will share with Helene, and we will have our own stories to share, I'm sure, about what this looks like on the street for each one of us as we share our own unique gifts and talents. And maybe yours is just prayer. Maybe you are going to stay home and you're going to pray for 15 minutes. That's great.
I was gonna say.
Did you hear this in the front row? Don't say just. You are going to stay home and pray. And pray.
Thank you.
Anything else? I do. Oh, I was listening. Nicely done. You hear that? Anything else before we close with prayer? We know it's not going to be me closing with prayer, because clearly I misunderstood the instructions at the beginning.
One of the things that
Yes.
we do.
What is your first name?
David.
David. I want to make sure, and I apologize. I was going to have everybody introduce themselves, but there's too many of you. It's so good.
So Grace Church in Canton, we're not a very big congregation, so we can't actually do a lot, even though we do.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have a building, and we did have an empty rectory. And we worked to get a transitional living ministry to actually use our rectory for nothing. We actually contribute it ourselves.
Wow.
It's called Grace House.
Great.
I'm actually his vice president, hence why I know about it. But our rector wasn't using it. He's got his own beautiful house, so why would we want to move him to our rectory next door where we can borrow him
So
our secretary? And recently, we've just invited a Cub Scout group to be sponsored or chartered by us, and I'll be using the building as well.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we've got, putting it bluntly, very old people who couldn't do that, but we can say, hey, we can give you these facilities, you just need to help us run.
That is huge, and that's what that coming together, it might not look like what you think, but if you all pull together, what do we have to offer? We want to offer. What do we have? Whether it be a space, things like that, and then, okay, let's make it God-worthy to offer, and like you said, you pull together, you made it that way, and it's gonna blossom, and it's wonderful.
Well, and what are
It's
your
gonna be
unique
wonderful.
gifts? So we have beautiful gardens at St. John's, and all the kids come and have their prom pictures taken in our gardens.
Yes.
So we're there when they're there, so we can talk about how beautiful they are and talk to their families. What are the gifts your church uniquely has? Whether it's space, or gardens, or a woman that's here as a delegate. Do you remember Pokemon Go when it started? Well, we apparently are a gym. The church, which is a thing. I don't really know. I tried to play. It was very fun to see little Pokemon on my phone, but I didn't ever capture any. But the day it started, she called me and she said, it's so hot outside, we have to give all of the people walking around the block cold water. What a brilliant idea. She sat there with a cooler. And as they went around the block catching Pokemon, she said, do you need water? We have cold water. What is a gift that's simple for you? What is something that you can do that says to the community, God loves you? And I'm going to show you what that looks like with a bottle of cold water.
It's cold water. It's a smile. That's so important. You have no idea. It's prayer. It's a
eye
space.
contact. It's
eye
noticing
contact.
people.
It's all of those things that that are truly organic about. They're just us.
Yeah.
This is what we have. Just like Jesus offered himself to us, we can offer our whole selves to him. Whether it be through a smile or just, I caught your face when you were talking, because I'm a crier, that's my mystery, obviously. When you were feeding those other children and thinking of your grandchildren, you know what you had? You had that love to offer. That caring, nurturing, these could be my babies. I'm taking care of them. That's so important. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to donate a new car
Or my kidney.
Yes. If you are donating a car, we'll take it.
Those are still good things. If you feel compelled to do that, I just want to make sure. I actually almost did. I was like, I think I need to donate a kidney. My Lord, I don't think you do.
Wonderful things that may seem small only to us, but are so big to others, and they add up and they grow because your smile, your love of children, your space for the scouts, whatever, they grow, and we got a kingdom.
The kingdom is at hand, and the kingdom is waiting, and we aim to take as many people with us as possible. So I just want to hear everybody say, it's gonna be a really, like a Sunday school moment. Jesus, I am willing, to be inconvenienced, for you, 15 minutes, today. I just want you to know you've all said it, so something's gonna happen tonight. Okay, you start paying attention because I heard you. Okay, so please do send us your stories, and you're gonna close us with prayer, right? Yep, you are. That's how this works. Like little bookends.
Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Heavenly Father, oh my goodness, what a beautiful, beautiful gathering group of people here. I can feel the love in the room. I know you can feel the love in the room for each other and for you. And I thank you for that. I thank you for this opportunity to be together and brainstorm and talk about and share our stories, how we glorify you, how we love your creation and try to tend and care for it as best we can. Lord, I hope that we all carry these treasures that we've learned today from each other, stories and each other's ideas and love for you. I hope we put them in our hearts and ponder them and treasure them and carry them outside and put them to good use for the use of your creation. Oh my gosh, Lord, we love you so much. Thank you so much. All right. In Jesus' name, amen.